I'm telling you. Hey, listen, you guys don't know it, but this is where the fun begins. It's right here. This is going to be worth the price of admission. All right. We're going to have, rather than have a solo presenter, we're going to share information through a panelist discussion. And I'll call your attention to a handout that you have on your table, and you can't miss it because it's got my picture on it. That would be me, that beautiful blonde. It's trying to juggle a few things. And that is our topic today. We're going to be talking about a place that I think most of you as small business owners have either been, or you might be like myself in the thick of that right now. And it's that place when you're a business owner and you started that business and you figured out that there's a few things you got to do to be that business owner and a few balls that you have to keep in the air, which can be very challenging. And so we're going to talk about, when you get to that place, we're going to get some wonderful insight from my panelists, my experts here on my panel as to how we might, take on that challenge. So before we begin with the questions, and you guys will be able to follow along with the questions, I'd like to allow my panel to introduce themselves. So, sorry, Will, but ladies first.
Oh my. Wow. Judy Ryan, owner of LifeWorks Systems.
Will Hankey, Red Canoe Media.
John Ayers, owner of Business Connections Consulting.
As you can see, I have a wonderful mind trust here of people that are going to be able to share with us their insights. So we're going to start with, go figure, question number 1. We're going to ask the panel, what is or was the tipping point that you decided, that you needed to seek help, to seek out some kind of resources that you were, like myself, had all these balls in the air. What was that tipping point for you when you decided I really need to think about, getting some help in some manner or form? So with that, Will?
So I use a program called Basecamp for project management. And what was happening for me was there were more to-do items than there was time to get the to-dos done. So it pushed me to start seeking for some other help.
And for me, I'm driven by purpose and vision. And so my vision, if I find myself avoiding my vision, it means that there's something not working in it. So if I take a closer look at my vision and I see where I'm not succeeding, then I want to start getting outside help so that I can make sure that I stay on track.
I really believe that you want to stay in touch with what your niche market, what you really do best is. And when you need help to go outside of that box, go outside and get that help. It's huge. And I was fortunate. I had 20 years of corporate sales experience before I started my company, and just knowing a lot of people to who I can pick up the phone and call and dial and get answers to my questions is huge. So it has helped me. When there's a tipping point, I go out and call, people that I know, I trust, that I can ask their advice or their help to get the right answers.
I'm going to add something. Sometimes we don't realize we're at a place where we need help, and so it helps to have your eyes on other people and let them know when they're at their tipping point. Bill Purnett has been a good one for me on that, because he'll say, how come you didn't call me? Why are you doing this all by yourself? And that's really important. Sometimes we can't see when we're at that place.
Ditto. Been there, done that. And I would guess that when we're talking about networks or resources, there's probably some other folks in this room that would the panel agree that you've probably reached out to when you're in that moment of overwhelm and what do I do? All right, great. Well, I love audience participation. So as you listen to the panelists, give their insights, I'd like to throw it to the audience now. Is there someone, out there that's been in this spot and something that, hasn't been mentioned, or ditto? Does anybody have any comments about this, what they do when they get to the point of that overwhelm and the tipping point? Any thoughts from the audience?
Really one of the things I like to do is avoid getting to that point. So one of the things that's been really helpful is that I've had the good fortune to become a part of a mastermind group of 5-6 people most of whom are in the room here today, that we meet once a month and we get a chance to explore in greater detail the challenges we're facing, the things we want to accomplish, what obstacles we see, how we might overcome them, and just general advice. And having that on a monthly basis, it doesn't allow it to build up to the point where you feel desperate or overwhelmed because we're moving forward on a consistent basis.
I think I might hear you saying something like, "Don't fly alone."
Yeah, this is just really a different angle on what Dale just shared. But I think sometimes there are different kinds of things that can overwhelm us. One is the number of things that we have to do, like Will mentioned. Well, there's more to do than I have time for. And I think what might even be more important to that is what I call the circus of priorities. So at any given time, you could be taking advantage of several opportunities or trying to solve several different problems, and they tend to kind of whirl inside of our head, and it becomes this kind of merry-go-round or this circus of priorities. And to Dale's point, I think that it's helpful to have a method to keep a dashboard of what your priorities are, but I think also having another set of eyes, having people in your world that kind of holds you accountable to staying focused on what you said is the most important stuff to solve or the most important opportunities to take advantage of.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Bill, did you have a comment?
Yeah, when we have a revenue shortfall, typically that's because we're so focused on everything else that we can't find time to get around to sell. And so that's a dead giveaway as far as I'm concerned, that you've got to do something different.
Great, thank you. Wonderful comments from the panelists and from the members of the audience. And so the second question we're going to take a look at kind of goes back to this idea of our title, which is getting the right resources on the bus, that when we finally do decide we've got to do something, we want to make sure that we choose the right resource or the right people. So I'll ask the panelists, what is your selection process to tackle this problem and to determine what's the what or perhaps the who. And we always, as entrepreneurs, oftentimes in our decision making, we have to consider our budget too, whether or not we have the resources to be able to actually hire. So panelist.
So I start by looking and see which kids I have available to do work. I also use internships.com. We've started using that to find some help. And of course, looking inside your own network to find out who in the world knows how to do whatever it is you need done.
I think that what I do in trying to determine what I need is I look at it from a couple of different angles, sort of a little bit like what Steve Smart was saying, that it could be just staying focused, it could be making sales happen, making sure that the revenue is there. But I also like to look for coaches and support that help me to understand what are the psychological reasons that I'm stuck or paralyzed or not able to move forward, and that has been extremely helpful to me as well. So it's kind of a combination, where do I need the skills help? Where do I need the personal responsibility help? Where do I need, some practical things too? So
I think I am very targeted in what I do with telemarketing. And I've got a great example of a story just happened 1 week ago. I had a client that I had been to networking meetings and met them, and they contacted me because they had a client of theirs that had a trade show list they went to last year. It just had the name of the company and the person's name, had no phone number or email address. And the advertising company that contacted me, they wanted that email to do an email blast for the upcoming trade show. So they called me and said, "John, can you help us out?" I go, "Yes, I can. Let me get back to you." So do a quick call to a couple of my contacts. One of the companies that I call for, the guy is the trade show specialist. That's what he does. He's been in the trade show world 15 plus years. So I contacted him, told him, "Here's what I need." He goes, "John, I can help you do that." I go, "Great. Send me a cost what you could do for this list of about between 500 to 800 names." He did. I contacted back to my client, said, "We can get that done. and here's a price. Let me know what you want to do. He contacted me later the next day. Bang, we went forward with it, finished it a day early, and so it also has potential for me to get calling on the list coming up, so it was a win-win situation. So always know your list of people that you can contact, and I think it's important when people contact you for something, do everything you can to be a solution, whether you put together the action to get the piece resolved or can put them in touch with the right person that can get it done right. But my guy came through with flying colors. He not only got the email and phone number, he got a LinkedIn address too for them, so they were thrilled.
I'd also like to mention, internships.com has, you can get some kids that are trying to finish out their college careers, and they have to have so many hours of internship in, so you can not pay them or pay them a fair sum and get some good work done that way. Probably the only bad side is that they're just trying to get their stuff done, so they're not terribly motivated in some cases to do things that related to your business.
Great stuff from the panel, and John, I loved your story. I love real life examples where what we talk about actually we're able to put into motion. So again, audience, any thoughts, any comments as to what you've heard on this question? Okay, love audience participation. Go, Richard.
I heard a lot of what you do, but my question is, how do you do it? There's been no list of qualifications or interview, or what is your process when you're looking at, because we're all salespeople, and they'll come in and say, well, I can do this for you, and I can do the greatest job ever. So how do you break them down to find out which one is the right one for you?
Who would like to take that question?
One of the things that I've been doing is standardizing my business. So I have a set of tasks that I put on Google Docs, and I have it set up so that it says, what will you do by when, and what is your strategy, what is your procedures, and who's going to help you with this if you need help, and how will you make it accountable. And then so that I have a clear communication, for example, with my interns on who's owning it, when is it going to be accomplished? So that's one of the things that I've been working on so that I can delegate and really let go. Another thing that I do for myself is I try to get really clear on my vision and what are the results that I have specifically listed in my vision. If it's a certain amount of sales, like right now I'm working on sales, and Bill has been helping me to get real clear about what it is to win a day, to win a week, to win a month. So there are processes available. I think that you probably do want to start with somebody that's already thinking process-minded, and there's a lot of people in this room that are.
Anyone else have a comment? Yes. Yes.
Could add to that comment.
Sure. Steve, we got to get another magic wand.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the things that really helps me a lot is I have a psychographic profile of my ideal customer, one that's based on the values and behaviors and characteristics of my ideal customer. And what I find is that they're equally valuable when I'm looking at potential vendor relationships, coaches, consultants, or whatever source I need. If they possess those same values, things go a whole lot more better than they would otherwise.
Great. Tom's been very patient over here with me.
I think as entrepreneurs, we have a tendency to believe incorrectly that we have to do everything ourselves, and that step forward to delegating is emotionally a very difficult thing. And then what happens is we delegate without having systems and methodology in place. Judy's point was really, really important. We've tried off and on for years and failed to bring interns in and delegate and and hand things off. And we only succeeded at it when we began to systematize the business in everything we do. And only those things where we have a very clear set of systems and methods and procedures, only those things have succeeded when we hand them off. because they're repeatable, they're teachable, they're trackable. Yeah, and so my suggestion to all of you is, before you go to these great resources that Will and others have suggested, invest the time and effort in putting the systems in place in your business, and then that will instruct you on which of these things make most sense for me to hand off. And you'll discover which things as you put those systems in place.
Let me just add to that once you've done the systems and have them in place, and I'm learning this firsthand as we speak, that make sure that you budget enough time to get with the person you're working with to make sure that they have a full understanding and are following through. The tracking, I think, that Will talked about and the others is just as important as having the systems.
Yeah, and to echo that, the old adage, you can you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. It's often much quicker to give a man a fish, but it's much more valuable for the long term to invest that extra amount of time to build the system and teach the system, because if you don't teach the system and you just pass it off, you're sort of setting up failure and frustration.
All right, wonderful comments. I'm sorry, I think I'm going to move on to my last question because the timekeeper has said that my time is running short, and I want to make sure that we finish. The last question is, what is the risk of not taking action? When you get into that paralysis situation, what is it? What are the risks of not, doing anything, taking action?
Well, first of all, losing your hair because you're pulling it out, I think, is a big one. There is definitely this overwhelm when, oh my gosh, I have to get all this done, and you're kind of forced into delegating, or your reputation's going to be at stake, and then you're going to start looking bad because you can't complete the business.
And I would say for me, it's discouragement. And when you're discouraged, you don't feel inspired. For me, I go into survival mode, and then I feel like I'm not even focused on my purpose, which is to create a world where people love their lives, because I'm not loving my life at that moment. So it's really focusing on, it costs me personally, it costs me stress, it costs me sleep, and sometimes it costs us money and momentum.
Number one, I think you can lose business if you're not prepared. So be very aware of that. Second thing, as a business owner, you should have a list of at least a half a dozen people that you can turn to for help. Have that written down. Go home tonight. If you don't have 6 people written down on a sheet at home that you can reach out to for, I need help with accounting, or I need some tax law help, some key figures, write those down and know the people you can pick it up, that sheet of paper right by your desk, and call them and reach out for help. It's huge.
Okay, the timekeeper says I have 1 minute. So who out there has got a burning comment about this question? No burning ones? Okay. Oh, Lori. Okay, Lori, come on.
My greatest thing with the failure to move forward and do anything is you just create this cycle where you're just digging yourself in a deeper and deeper hole. And the deeper you get down into it, it's so much harder to move forward with hiring someone or reaching out and delegating to anyone, because the deeper you get into that hole, the less time you have to dedicate to doing that. So to take all this into consideration and reach out to trusted resources, a mastermind group or this group or whomever you have a business partner with that you can share and be talking about these things to move forward with this before you get to that complete overwhelm, because that hole just keeps getting deeper, and when you do nothing, it just continues to get worse.
Thank you, Lori. I'm sorry, we're out of time. I want to thank my panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. So appreciate them. All right, and just to wrap up, like what I heard was vision, how very important it is to have a vision as to where you're going. I heard a lot about processes. And then, I think more than anything I heard was, have a network of people. And the whole time that I'm thinking about this topic and hearing everybody's answers is, I know that E4E satisfies what we need. Our resources are within this organization and its organizer, Bill Purnett. So, the answers to all these questions lie right here. We have it here in E4E, everything that we need to become successful business owners and to grow that business to be even to a higher level, to be more successful. So with that, we'll end our panel discussion and we will take a short break.